we spend so much time shining the light on other people, the
Mhm.
kids, our partner, our spouse. It is time to shine the light back on ourselves. Like for
Yes.
me, that's the key is like, okay, now what I want to do. Like if I'm
Yeah.
shining light on me, what do I see? What don't I see? What things do I want to do? Do I want to become somebody else? Right. This is just a transition like any other transition, right? Except nobody else puts it out there for us.
Hi, and welcome to Beyond Empty Nest. I'm your host, Jody Silverman, speaker, mentor, and Chief Dare Officer at Moms Who Dare. Every Thursday, I'll share stories of midlife transformation, happiness tips, and dare you to see the opportunities waiting for you so that you can make this next chapter even better than the last. If you're ready to dare, I'm ready to dare with you. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Beyond Empty Nest and to a very special series I'm calling Month of Dad. We spent a lot of time here talking about how moms navigate the empty nest, but dads have their own journey too. And this month, we're giving them the mic. Each week in June, I'll be sitting down with a dad who's experienced not just the transition of his kids leaving home, but also the midlife shift that comes with it. We'll talk about what it's really like when your kids no longer need you in the same way, how it impacts fatherhood, marriage, career, and personal growth, and the way these men have dared to step into this next season of life. Today, you're in for a treat because I'm joined by Jay Ramsden, host of the Empty Nest Life podcast. And Jay has a deep interest and love for helping people find their way in life. And you might sound familiar because Jay's been here before. Jay was actually my guest in season one on episode 13. We'll be sure to share a link to that episode in the show notes as well. But today he'll be sharing his take on fatherhood, midlife reinvention, and the lessons he's learned along the way. Can't wait for you to hear the conversation. So, Jay, let's dive in.
All
Welcome.
right. I'm ready, Jody. Thanks so much for having me back.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're back. And I just so our listeners know, Jay's episode is in like the top 10 of our episodes, and we have well over 100 episodes. So you're going to want to listen to that because it's all for the mom. All right, Jay, we're diving right into this because I don't want to, we're
Yeah,
no
let's
messing
go.
around here. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there something that surprised you the most about the empty nest transition and how it might have affected your sense of purpose as a dad?
I think so. I think it's important to note, like we as parents kind of wrap ourselves up in identities of like mom and dad, right? It happens all the time,
I know.
right? Our kids are involved in sports or extracurricular or other activities, and we kind of become Billy or Susie's mom or dad, right? We all know
Yes.
that story, right? Oh yeah, that's Jody's mom, or that's Jay's. That's
Or I'm
that's
I'm
Jay's
Ju-
kid.
I'm Judy's daughter. My mother's
Yeah,
Judy.
yeah,
Don't
yeah.
go. So I'm
Exactly.
Judy's daughter, and I'm Sam's wife, and I'm yes,
Yeah, so all these titles that aren't ourselves,
yeah.
right? But then we also take on roles within the family. So for me, that was like the logistics person. And because my wife and I at the time both worked in education, she had a lot of meetings after school. I was the logistics guy. So getting the kids up, getting them out, getting lunch, that stuff done, as they kind of grew, other that role changed into like swim team carpool and getting them home and making sure homework was getting started and putting dinner on the table. It probably sounds familiar, right? And a lot of people do those things. But so the logistics piece just ended.
Mhm.
And, a lot of times people were like, well, it didn't end. Like it shifts, right? You do logistics for you and your wife. And now for me, my wife and my mother-in-law who lives
Mhm.
with us. But it was that logistics piece. It was like, what do I do now that I'm not organizing everybody's schedules and getting people to point A and point B? That's when it hit me.
I get that. I'm just we have a guest in this month, one of our dads, and it's Paul Sullivan, and he's going to talk about what you just said. He calls it the lead dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The
Doesn't
lead
mean
dad.
it.
Yeah, that was me. I was the lead dad. I was the primary caregiver just based upon how our household worked.
So the kids leave, and now you have
Yeah.
time. You experience. So I'm like, and tell me if I'm wrong. You experience what most of the moms that I have met and what I experienced because I was a lead mom. because I was the one that worked from home and I had the flexibility.
Hmm.
You experience like, oh wow, I have all this empty space and open space now in my life. Like, what do I do with it? And I think that gives you a really unique perspective in the work you do because you support a lot of women navigating emptiness, and you can actually understand what they're going through.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're gonna call it lead parent, though,
Lead parent. Oh, I like that. Lead
right? Lead
parent.
parent, not lead mom or lead dad, right? Lead parent, because sometimes, right, there's single parents out there. They are the lead parent. Doesn't matter if they're a mom or a dad. Like I really believe it doesn't matter who, if you're a mom or a dad, the role is still the same if you're the person who's taking point,
Yep.
right?
Oh, I like that.
It's like running a project in a company, right? If you're a project manager, that's what we were. You were that, I was that. It's
Mhm.
like, how do you keep this thing rolling so nobody
Yeah.
misses a beat, so nobody forgets a lunch or an
Yeah.
instrument on, music day or their
Mhm.
backpack to go to swim team practice, whatever, right? The checks and balances. So I think that is the piece. Like, if you could tap into that, here is like, okay, yeah, there are dads who are lead dads, but they probably don't talk about it very much,
Uh-uh.
right? Lead moms, you all are like, oh, let's figure this shit out, right? You come together and you're like, now it's all stopped. What do I do? And lead dads are probably a little bit more quiet in that because,
Absolutely.
especially if they're a lead dad who's like widowed or divorced or something along those lines, it's just we don't talk about those things, right? That's typical for men not to talk about stuff. But I
Yeah.
think it's important for men to talk about it, just as it is important for moms, and women to talk about it.
And that's why I invited you and the three other amazing dads on the show because the four of you are talking about it and you're creating space for dads to talk about it. And I just love that. I love that. So since you were the logistics guy in the family, how has because there's the empty nest and midlife comes with that. Empty nest is a transition in the midlife chapter. So how maybe has midlife changed or reshaped your goals or your identity?
I love that question, Jody. And it for me is like I still do the logistics. It's just more part-time.
Mm.
Like when the kids call and they need something, and I do it for obviously for my wife and my mother-in-law, right? Grocery and shopping and that kind of stuff. But it does free up the amount of time that you can start to. I always like say, just we spend so much time shining the light on other people, the kids, our partner, our spouse. It is time to shine the light back on ourselves. Like for
Yes.
me, that's the key is like, okay, now what I want to do. Like if
Yeah.
I'm shining light on me, what do I see? What don't I see? What things do I want to do? Do I want to become somebody else? Right? This is just a transition like any other transition, right? Except nobody else puts it out there for us. Right?
Yeah.
And we may
It's
have talked
true.
about this in the initial episode too. It's like when you go off to elementary school, other kids who've gone off to elementary school. When you go to middle school, you see those kids go off to like what happens next.
Yes.
When we hit midlife and the kids leave home, you don't know what happened next. People talk
Yeah.
about retirement, you see that, but this, whatever it is, 10 to 15 year
Yeah.
in between the kids leaving and quote unquote retiring, that time frame, nobody really talks about that or showcases what that looks like.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like the best time to be doing all of the amazing things you could possibly be doing in life. Because when you wait to retirement, then you're older, you're tired, health issues might kick in. Do it now. I think is
Yes.
probably the message, right? Is do it now.
Do it now. And I love that because I call it the me era. And I
Hmm.
like that because honestly, I really believe that when our kids do go off, whether they go off to college or they just go off into the world, wherever they start, it's all about them. Like they're in their own me era.
Oh, absolutely, they are.
And I think I always say, let's go on a parallel journey that
Yes.
we're launched our
Yes.
kids on. And I like how you call it. You call it
Yeah.
the me
I
era.
call it the you're me era. And Taylor Swift, if you're listening, don't come for me. I stole the era part. But yeah, you're me era, right? Because it should be. Just like you said, your kids are going off and discovering who they are and who they want to be and what they want their life to look like. And they're trying and they're experimenting and they're
Yeah.
failing and they're learning. We should be doing the exact same thing.
Right. And I don't know, how do you feel, but all I know is that, look, before we hit record, I get to have a chat with my guests.
Hmm.
And before we hit record, I shared with you that at the time of this recording, that I'm going through some big, really exciting changes in my business, but then I'm just so scared, like that I'm feeling like I'm out of my comfort zone again. And with that being said, the fear is, I know what the fear is now because I am 58 years old. Like I know what the fear is. The fear isn't going to cripple me. And that if one of the moving parts of what I'm doing in my business doesn't work, then I'll learn from it and I'll know. I think we still feel fear, but yet we navigate it different. And I think that's why it makes this time of our life so important to be the me era because we stop worrying so much about what other people think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're not as scared as failure because, okay, well, it didn't work.
Right. Right. But then some people still are. They
Yeah,
still worry about other
I
people
know.
think, and they still worry about the failure piece.
Yeah, they do.
And it for me, it's like, why wouldn't you take advantage of this time to reinvent yourself?
I know.
If you wanted to, right? You could. And people are like, well, whatever, I'm 55, I'm 57, I'm 58, I'm 60. I Why should I bother
Oh,
reinventing myself? No, it's like, why wouldn't you want to?
oh, yeah. I mean, I say, look, we have one precious life to live. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to live it. I'm going
Yeah.
to live it. I'm going to live it. Like every day I wake up, I'm like, okay, if everything just stopped today, I would be okay with what I've done. I want to do more.
Yeah. Oh
And it
yeah.
doesn't have to be
Absolutely.
grandiose, right? So I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, are you okay with where you are? And it's okay. Reinvention doesn't mean a whole new career. It could just be doing fun things like riding a bike again. There's a group of us going to go roller skating. I'm going to wear knee pads and a suit of armor, but I'm going to get on those roller skates. That's yeah. So I love that. I love
I
this.
love
So,
that. I love it. Yeah. It's interesting you brought up the bike piece because when we were talking last time in the fall, right? When you were on my podcast, I
yeah,
believe, or maybe when I was on yours, you were like,
yeah,
oh yeah, I'm gonna ride my bike more.
yep.
I'm gonna go get it out and do it.
I
And
am.
it is, it's like it's the tweak.
It is. I literally just brought it up into the garage. I'm going to get the air filled. My girlfriend said we could ride bikes in the park near her. I'm like, okay, this barrier that I put up, meaning I don't know, have a bike rack, like that is such a lame excuse. I will figure it out if I have to take it apart. So yes, I did say that to you, and I am going to do it this spring and summer. So thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Love
Yes.
it. I love it. But it's the tweak part that's most
Yeah.
important because people are like, oh, I have to like change my whole life. No,
Yeah.
you can change one thing about it,
So I
right?
know you have a lot of great advice and a lot of suggestions that you share a lot that's geared specifically to women. Is there a piece of advice that you would want to offer dads out there who are feeling stuck? Is it different? Or maybe it's the same advice if they're feeling like stuck or uncertain about this next phase of life? Because I'm going to go on a limb here and say that men can be maybe even a little harder on themselves because they have expectations of who they just like we have expectations of who we are in
Mm-hmm.
the family. Men have their own set of I have to be this.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah.
right? And it depends too. I think it depends on the relationship they had with their kids, right? Sometimes they were their kids' coach,
Yep.
maybe when they were little or throughout the time the kids were growing up, and that changes, right? You don't have that same connection or that
Mhm.
same time frame with them anymore. So conversations may be different, carpooling stuff may be different. But I think it's also, right, a lot of times it's like the partnership with your partner or spouse, right? Too
Yes.
is did I, commit everything I could have committed to that? Were there regrets there? Were there regrets that I worked too much or not work? All of
Right.
those different things I think come into play when you're talking about dads
Mhm.
who empty nest. The interesting part is because they don't talk about it a whole lot, there's not a whole lot of information out there. Like, what is the piece that they struggle with most?
Ah,
If I go just based upon like my friends and the people that who the dads that I have worked with, it's really sometimes more regret than it is anything else. Regret of relationships with the kids, regret of relationships with their partner, regret of spending too much time out of the house,
yeah. Okay.
more than it is like moms typically feel like this was my job and now it's gone,
Yes. Yes.
right? And
Yes.
this is
Yes.
more like, ooh, I missed out. It's more like the
Got it. Regret.
dad's regret. Yeah.
So what would you tell a dad who's getting a little bit stuck in that regret?
Yeah. I think it's never too late to start again.
Yep. I love
Right?
that.
It's
Yeah.
never too late to start again. You can reinvent yourself too as a dad,
Hmm.
100%, right?
Absolutely.
Just as you can as a mom or as a person. I think that's what it is more than anything is like why wouldn't you press pause and
Yeah.
say, is how I'm leading my life serve me well
Yeah.
in this moment? And that, P.S., that goes for anybody who's listening any time in life, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, you know what? You're triggering a memory, and then I want to get into a question about community with you. But as it relates to regret in relationships, I was in college when my parents were divorced. My father, with his second wife, my stepmother at the time, they had two children. And the generational gap is, I mean, the oldest one is 21 years younger than me, and the other one is 24 years younger than me. And I didn't play an active role in their life when they were little. We can get into that. I unpacked that with my therapist many years ago. And I realized when they were in their teens that I really was sad about that. I had regret. I had regret.
Yeah.
And they didn't know. They didn't know why. They just knew that, my sister Jody didn't want to be with me. And I like what you said that it's not too late. Act as if today. And what I did is I just started showing up in the way that I wanted to show up. Whether they embraced me or not, I just kept showing up. I didn't take it personally. If they weren't open to it at first, I didn't take it. And eventually, I mean, now here I am to have the best relationship with both of them. So I love that you said it's never too late. You can show up for the people in your life that matter most anytime. Just and it's okay if they don't understand what's happening. Just be you and show up. So I really like
Yeah.
that.
100% you can.
Not too late. It's not. All right. So is there a part of community? How has community helped you and those you serve in this chapter?
Yeah, I think community helps people to see that they're not alone.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
right? I worked in education for a long time, and there were all these conferences that were specific to, I was a tech person, to the tech people, or the English department, the math department, or the people who raise money, or the business office, right? You all want to go someplace and have a conversation about what's working and not working in the workplace. Yeah, hello, community is the same thing for empty nesters. It's like finding that community where you can say, here, I'm struggling with this, and how might you be able to help me with it? All right. So that I could see that I'm not alone in it. Oftentimes we think we're just a unicorn and we're the only
Yeah.
person who's going
We're
through whatever it
so.
is we may be
Oh,
going through. Right. And so that's where community plays a huge piece.
yeah.
Right. Which is great. Like you have the Moms Who Dare
Yep.
community. Right. And I'm starting to build communities around the empty nest timeline. Right.
Yeah.
So a community around what do you do before they leave? And then what do you do to overcome the silence? And then what do you do when they come home for the holidays? And how do you leverage that into becoming like your me era, which we talked about, right?
So
Like
how are you
those,
doing that? How are you building that?
yeah. So I'm building those through master classes for moms and dads, right? Who are struggling with any of those topics,
I love that.
right? So my communities are very topic specific, right?
Yeah.
So what do I do to like prepare for the kids before they leave? What do I need to look out for? What do I need to know? What are the things that are going to happen? And then how do I handle it when they actually do go? And then how do I handle it when they come back from vacation and go back again?
Yeah, oh, that's a big one. I love that
Yes, huge,
conversation.
right?
I want to talk to you about that. We're gonna come back and talk about that because the gone again, home again, gone again, home again. Because I always say, you drop your kids off at college,
Mm-hmm.
and when they come home that first time for Thanksgiving, they are not the same child you dropped off, and your
Oh no,
house is not the same house.
no, not at all. In just whatever, 2, 3 months time, right?
Yeah. So these
Yeah,
series of master classes, it addresses each stage of that separation. I love that.
yeah,
I love that.
exactly. Yeah, and then so that's how I'm building community around this topic is
Love
like,
it.
and then ultimately I will build a community down the road that's just called This Emptiness Life, right?
Yeah.
Because that's my handle, that's my merch, that's everything I talk about is like This Emptiness Life. It's like a
Yeah.
TV show, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I love I love
yeah.
everything you're doing. I've been a fan since the day when and I met you because I started seeing your Instagram and TikTok videos and I loved them. I'm like, oh my God, it's like I'm hearing myself speak. This guy is speaking my language. We were speaking the same messages and
Mm-hmm.
I always like different voices because not every, first of all, you can get tired of my voice. He only hearing me and you hear things differently when somebody else says it. So
Absolutely.
we will share information about your master classes, your show, this Emptiness Life podcast, and everything. I highly recommend everybody follow Jay on social media, wherever you are, because his messaging is so on point. There is a message for everybody out there, no matter where you are in the emotional stage or physical stage of emptiness and beyond. The messages are just so on point. So yeah,
Oh,
love
thank you,
that.
Jody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you know what comes up now. Nobody leaves the beyond emptiness without a dare. So what's your
Yeah.
dare?
I think we're going to tie it into what you said earlier is do it scared. That's
Do
the dare.
it.
Do it scared. Do anything scared.
Yeah.
Right. And again, it doesn't have to be some big crazy thing. So like last week, my wife was on spring break. She works at school. So we're on spring break. We went to the Caribbean. We got certified in scuba diving. And then we dove for the rest of the week, right? Some people would be like, hell no, I'll never do that, right? Well, pick your own thing that's like, what would you might be afraid of that you could do it scared? Maybe it's even to just go have lunch by yourself,
Yes.
right? Or don't, I think we talked about it before, like go to a movie by
I
yourself.
love going to movies by
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. I thought that was a conversation we had. It was like, why
Yeah.
not?
I found out I
Right.
have a friend who goes to the movies every Tuesday because the AMC has this like
Yeah.
$5 or $7. I said, well, why don't you tell me? She goes, I like going by myself. I go, well, I'm going to show up. I'm like, so yeah, I do it scared. Your
Do
dare
it
is do it
scared.
scared because really ask yourself as you're feeling scared, what's the worst that can happen? You're sitting in a dark room watching a movie. Nobody's talking anyway.
Yeah, your cell phone's off. There's no interruptions. You get to enjoy it,
Ah,
right? You take it in and the scenery. You get to
ah,
experience whatever emotions there are that may be coming with the movie.
love it.
Yeah,
Do it scared.
do it
Jay,
scared.
thank you so much for coming on for the month of Dad. I'm really excited about all of you being here, and I'm just grateful that you're making a repeat appearance on Beyond Emptiness. I truly appreciate you.
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked me to come back, and I'm really looking forward to this series. Well done on that.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, there's 3 more weeks of June, and there's 3 more dads joining us. So don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Month of Dad. And as I always say, dare on. Hey guys, thank you for listening and for daring with me on this midlife journey. If you liked what you've heard, and I really hope you did, give Beyond Emptiness a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And be sure to tell your friends to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. Until next week, dare on.